Hello and welcome to this webinar from Pimberly and Intellisell with guest panelists from Evo Group and Flowtech. Today we'll be deep diving into the role of product data in B2B growth. I'm Serena Berry, Partner Marketing Manager at Pimberly. I'll be your host today, but the industry insights will be coming from our speakers, Colin, Richard and Lynn, who I'll hand over to now for a quick intro.
So my name's Colin. I currently handle the PIM system at Evo Group. I've got over 21 years experience in sort of the office supplies industry. Originally started life in retail, moved up to a merchandising role within head office. And then after collaborating with the Central European master data function, they inspired me to delve into the realms of master data. So I've been in handling master data ever since.
Okay, so yeah, Richard Nash. I've been in ERP for 20 plus years with primarily then into integrated systems, especially with e-commerce. So these days with business to business. So I work for a company called CPIO, who's a very large Sage business partner in the UK, and I'm product manager for Intellisell, which is its own trade portal, but we do multiple integrations to various other third-party systems. So we partner with Pimberly to put PIMs into some of our customers.
Fab. And last but not least, we've got Lynn.
Hi, Lynn Yates. I work at Flowtech. Been with the company 22 years nearly. Come from a very, very technical industrial product, which is hydraulics and pneumatics. I've been in that industry for about near on 40 years. So my role within the organization at the moment is product data. So the PIM is a massive help for us, pulling it all into one place. So yeah, interesting times. We've had PIM now 2 years, but operational, it's probably just come into its own in the last 9 months. So yeah, still very new.
Fabulous. Okay, so to kick things off, product data can often mean many things to different roles and different people. So I'm interested in what product data means to you specifically and your role within the business. Colin, do you want to kick us off first?
Yeah, sure, thanks. So the thing that I really love about product master data is that there's very few things in the world of life that are absolutes, and master data is it's either right or wrong. It's as simple as that. And it's the other sort of thing that I really like about it is that it allows you to sort of build a common language, not only with other people within other departments, but equally between multiple systems across the whole organization. And I believe that's really important. For simple example of it simply just allows salespeople to be able to go to their clients with truthful, accurate data, and they're not necessarily going to have to backtrack on anything that they may have said off the cuff. They're able to go with confidence that master data is truthful. So yeah, that's my excuse.
Lynn, what are your thoughts?
Being a very technical organisation and having a very young sales team, we've used the PIM and all the attributes we store for it to create a long description, so that the ease of the customer when they come on and they query a product, they're able to read out just purely from a concatenation from, like, say, the attributes, and it's in a sentence. It's not like scripted or anything. It's really easy for then all of the operators internally and externally to give the customer great in-depth knowledge, and they sound really technical, even though they're just reading a statement. But we like that, and obviously we can change it if the suppliers change any information at all. You know, it's that instantaneous update, and every record is updated. So the golden truth, it's absolutely perfect for us.
Fab. And Richard, what are your thoughts? What does product data mean to you?
So we come from working back office systems, and what we're seeing with our customers follows on from what Colin and Lynn have just said, in the fact that we're seeing our customers figure out where the best place for certain data is needed at point of use. So, for example, in ERP, it doesn't necessarily need the long description. It needs to know what it's called, where it is, how much it costs, who you sold it to, when they bought it, etc. So the difference between good quality marketing data and good quality ERP data are very, very different. So I'm seeing a lot of businesses now realize if they want to scale and grow and enter into new markets and new territories with business to business side of things, it's like Lynn said, the point of use, the people who are in front of customers need accurate product data, and then they would call price, stock, whatnot from an ERP system. So in the old days, I'd say our customers were struggling with people's knowledge. It was knowledge in their heads, and you're right. Some people might be saying something slightly different than the next person. So having one version of the truth of a good product overview, that's where these PIMs are coming alive. And a PIM works really well over the top of an ERP system. So, you know, they support each other. There's not duplicate data. It's just that one version of the truth.
Something that I found really interesting actually is when I was been chatting to you all in the run up to this, is Colin and Lynn, your focus was also very much specifically around helping the internal teams, which is something that I didn't, I always think of it as the end consumer, what it means to the customer, but it was really fascinating to hear about your focus on it being internal.
Yeah. Well, from my perspective, is that the end consumer is so far beyond what I would have reached to. So therefore, when I look at it and drawing from my retail experience of that sort of sales culture, is that my customer is the merchandising team, it is the logistics team, it is supply chain. So as long as my customers are happy and what they're getting is correct and accurate and truthful, then ultimately that's then going to have a knock-on effect to their customers, which obviously from merchandising to sales team to the actual end customer. And that's kind of sort of the simple thing. I've been born and bred on the notion that everything begins and ends with the customer. So being able to identify, okay, yeah, sure, the customer is sort of a million light years away from me. So who actually is my customer is really valuable. And it allows me to sort of build that rapport with those departments to say, hey, does this data make sense? If not, then we go back and review it and understand, okay, well, where's the bottlenecks, where's the issues, what's not generating any value from there. So, yeah.
I guess kind of leading on to that, how can you use product data to drive kind of key growth KPIs within B2B? Lynn, do you want to kick us off with this one?
B2B is again very similar to what Colin was saying. You know, internally we are probably a million light years because we only deal with distributors and resellers currently. So making sure that they're informed to make sure that their customers are informed, you know, it is critical. So we can only push our data so far with them and make it easy for them to adopt and push it onto the end user. We've got lots and lots of various ways of doing it. We can do it via the web, we can do it via EDI links, and we can do it by the app, and they can, you know, interrogate our data as much as they want. And we have got a couple of really good distributors that want that information and that are working, and we're working really closely with them. So yeah, it's getting the knowledge out there, what's available from us, and the ease that it's available. You know, it's just a simple download and off they go.
Fab. Richard?
Yeah, I see that the same from our side. I think we get a lot of customers have that 80-20 rule, should we say. They're the top sellers to the top customers. And when we really dive into the data and look at the gaps, it tends to be the data's in ERP, which is fine. So they know it's there, it's in stock, there's a quantity and they can ship it. But then it's that front of house, that sales team or the websites of these trade portals. So they got the right information to upsell and cross-sell. And like I say, ERP can push the certain amount of data forward, but something like a PIM therefore adds all the valuable enhancement data. So what does it look like? There's long descriptions to help those either sales teams or websites. So therefore, creating campaigns for to try and cross-sell or upsell or bundles, packs and kits. You need all this quality data in the right place to enable yourself to do that. Otherwise, you're just constantly staying on selling the top products to the top customers. So yeah, I think it's really important, and having KPIs around the two systems then in place, the dots can be joined up, so you can see if you have got a decent data set, both back office and in a PIM, are you selling more of that product? And then you analyze your data and obviously fill the gaps. So yeah, I think it's really helpful to drive the growth.
Colin, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think I completely agree with sort of what Richard's sort of saying, is that there's, without being able to sort of really interrogate the data, you can't really sort of see your pitfalls. And it's like, if you look at it from a sort of a warehouse perspective, is that every single pick location has a monetary value. And if you're not able to easily and quickly identify what stock's shifting rapidly and what stock is just sat there stagnating, then you're going to run into pretty big problems really quickly. You're not necessarily going to have the storage capacity to be able to bring in those fast movers, because you've got well, as Richard says, potentially 80% of your pick locations are just slow movers, stagnated stock that's ultimately costing you time and money. So yeah, I do agree.
Fab. Okay, so looking at kind of milestones for companies to have in place before they look to expand, what milestones should be in place for your data before looking to scale? Richard, do you want to kick us off?
I think it's a good data cleanse. I mean, so many businesses have, don't say average reporting, but reporting could be better. So analytics, whether they use a reporting tool from a back office system, an ERP system, or they have a BI tool that's trying to extract live dashboards. If that core data is duplicated or slightly incorrect, then those reports, they're not going to be great, and everyone's just going to not trust them immediately. So it's that keeping data clean, but obviously getting a view of data structure. So if you were to double in size, that's your product quantities, your product SKUs, or go into new territories and try new lines, have a forward think of what your data set should look like. So product codes is an easy one, using suffixes and prefixes. How is that going to work for your back office, your reports, and obviously up into the PIM and publication then is just enriching that data. So I think we see it a lot with, we tend to start when we're doing some business reviews with our customers, we look at the output, what is the quality of the reporting, and that tends to really show us where the gaps are. And off the back of that, then we put some integrations and automations around the key parts. So then they funnel their problems down to just working via exceptions rather than running around trying to solve everything. We can automate what's working and then fix what needs a bit of human intervention.
Fab. I think Colin and Lynn, I'm really interested to kind of hear what you guys have got in place at Evo and Flowtech to make sure that kind of you've got the right data in place.
Yeah, well, I personally believe that it's really, really important to ensure that it's simple. And by doing that, of just sort of looking at the attributes that you're potentially looking to put into the PIM and literally just going through them one by one and asking, does it actually add value? I've seen a lot of sort of master data models that are really bloated with a lot of attributes that make a lot of sense for a very, very small subset of products. But when you're then looking at multiplying that against all of the rest, you've just got a load of blank gaps. So keeping it simple is really sort of key. And the other thing as well is that, is the master data model itself scalable? So by that, I mean, with master data, you're able to do exactly the same thing if you use it once, if you use it 10 times, if you use it 100 times, or if you use it 1,000,000 times. And you're allowed to be able to scale up to that without anything breaking. And that's kind of sort of the test to your data model. So even if you're starting out with maybe a small business with sub 100 products, is being able to sort of understand and visualize, can I scale all the way up with exactly the same model and run those theoretical tests, will really give you a good steer of what's working and what's not. So, yeah.
Yeah. I wish we'd have had this question about 6 months ago, because Richard and Colin have just absolutely nailed it. You need clean data. You need to know the shape of your data. You need to know exactly where you're going, because we have just made all of those mistakes through, if I said excitement, showing keenness, and we have got attributes for about 3 products, and you think, why? So we are absolutely now reviewing all of it. What is core data? What is the core attributes? You know, do people need to filter on color? Absolutely. If they're buying a shirt or they're buying shoes, do they need to filter on color if they're buying a hydraulic ball valve? Probably not. But that's the color of the handle. So yeah, there's lots and lots of things we have learned massively, and we are now undergoing that process, and it's just stripping out and just put it into body copy and things like that for the customer, because it always is needed. It's there for a reason. Suppliers are putting it in there, but again, we need to be really strict with our suppliers, because they will give you everything. You know, even the mum's birthday, they'll give you. So yeah, we're just knowing what to strip out before it goes in. So yeah, it's been dead interesting.
I guess. Oh, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to add, like, another thing as well to keep in mind is that although I probably maybe have decorated a picture of master data being very, very strict and rigid, but equally you need to factor in it's sort of the evolution of the data model as well.
Yes.
Is that I've equally seen cases where a fixed set of rules have been set out, and then that's it. You're not going to change from that. But then obviously as things change, and if you look at the topical thing at the moment of, say, environmentally friendly products and environmental data, is that that's something that probably wasn't really envisaged maybe 10, 20 years ago with some of these older data models. So it's really crucial to ensure that there's some level of flex to allow scalability and adjust to market demands.
And that's what I like about the PIM, because we can add in environmental attributes purely just as a new section. We don't have to touch anything else. We just contact the suppliers and say, you know, tell me what plating it is. There was a thing, if I said 12 years ago, about chrome-free plating, you know, it's got to be chrome 6 free plating. It's got to be clean so that the automotive market can handle it. So, and the wastage. So we've got all of that in the back end somewhere. Just got to pull it out and put it in the right place. So yeah, it has to be flexible. You're right.
Are you seeing a lot of sustainability pressures from kind of customers or the industry?
Not currently, to be fair, but we know it's going to come. You know, the effect that Brexit had on us as a business, we thought we had it nailed down, and it didn't. So, you know, panic again for sort of 3 months, making sure we had all the right information. We always stored commodity codes to 8 digits. They wanted 10. So, you know, it's back onto the Gov website, updating sort of 12,000 commodity codes to make sure we got the right number of digits. Country of origin as well. You know, we store to 3 digits in our ISO standard, but our couriers want it to 2 digits. So yeah, it's massive learning curve. But I think the way our own ERP system and PIM work together is amazing. It's having that synergy between the two. We've also got another couple of bits of software that we use internally for sales, and it does integrate. And I think that is, if you're going to go forward and get your sort of B2B up there and the growth, it all has to be sort of integral to one another. Yeah.
I mean, we've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but in terms of obviously the B2B differences in data compared to when going direct to the consumer, with kind of a lot more B2B companies considering this now, what consideration should we put on the product data to kind of prepare for this? Richard, what are your thoughts?
This is really big for us right now, to be honest. This comes up everywhere. So in principle, a product could be sold wholesale or retail. The warehouse, is it set up for picking and packing individual items, is probably the first place we look. And if you follow the retail typical path, customers, where's my stuff? Where's the courier? And how do you move your customer contact from ringing you to say, where's my items, to using the courier carrier apps and say, the driver's 10 doors away. So that has come across to the B2B sector really well. So those customers who are currently just true wholesale are looking to integrate their carriers and couriers, and then they're picking different carriers and couriers to do the small value items or pack individual lines. And at the same time, then we're seeing more third-party logistics companies coming in. So putting your stuff in other people's warehouses, the Amazon model, should we say. So it's definitely starting in the back office, but joining the dots to the front office, this is, as we said in a previous conversation, I think this is where the PIM comes in, because when we build our trade portal, all our customer specific data is behind a secure login. So therefore you can't index that data, you're not allowed to. So how do you publish a product data set, in marketing terms, to make Google understand you're selling a big pallet of something? You describe it entirely different than you were if you're just selling one of. And I think the importance now of managing the front end, really good quality marketing data is critical if you're going to go into marketplaces and try and sell direct to consumer. Because if you just go with the one data set, Google will probably get confused as to who you are. Are you wholesale? Are you retail? And then they'll mark you down for that for sure. And they won't necessarily put you in front of who you want to be in front of. So having two sets of data for the same product is really, really important now. And that's where the PIM lives and breathes over the top of an ERP system, and that's how they work so well together. So that the PIM can manage the differences and the single point of where's the product, where do we pick it from, which warehouse is it going to be dispatched from, what label goes on it. ERP manages that, obviously.
Yeah, we've got similar, very, very similar challenges. We want to work off a sort of an omnicom channel, and it's having that sort of flexibility for all customers. It's so easy for them just to switch off and go elsewhere if they can't find the right data and in the words or the warm words that they're looking for. It's the PIM, and like you say, the support from all of the other, it is fantastic. Warehouse logistics, like you say, you could be picking thousands and thousands of pounds worth of orders for one customer for our distributors, but when it comes to end users, it's just going to be one fitting, and probably the packaging is worth more than the goods. So how are we going to handle that? How are we going to package it? Then there comes the green question. So yeah, it's all going to be very, 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 challenging.
Colin, I know Evo handle a mixture of retail and B2B brands. Have you seen a difference in the way that product data needs to be looked after to kind of satisfy the end user?
Well, yeah, definitely. And typically I do look at it from sort of a retail product perspective, because I always look at things as if I am the consumer. So I look at maybe the product data, and I think if I saw that on a website, would it make sense to me if I wanted to buy it? And that's probably the key thing, is that does it make sense to what the consumer's expecting, but equally, is it comparable to the data that's around in the market? Like for sure, if you can better the data that's around in the market, that's great. But it's more of at least being on par to everyone else. For example, is that if you've got OEMs or manufacturer part numbers all over the shop and they don't necessarily correlate to the truth of the actual product itself, if consumers are savvy, consumers will shop around. So if they're not able to find that product elsewhere to sort of compare sort of price and so forth, they're just going to, it's an immediate turn off, I believe. I, as a consumer, have gone onto a plethora of websites and trying to find a quite obscure little thing and find a lot of mismatched data. And typically I look at, well, what are the vast majority saying that this truly is, and then go with that as some level of truth. And then I discard the ones that don't align to that data. So ensuring what's truthful and already out there in the market is really key.
Again, we're very much on theme with this next question, but historically, kind of the B2B industry has been more manual, a little bit. I don't want to say behind, because I feel like that gives it an injustice, but compared to the direct to consumer and the B2C industry, they've always kind of been further ahead on the AI, the automation, that kind of thing. But I feel like that there's definitely a shift kind of coming. And what are you kind of seeing in that space in the B2B industry at the moment?
Shall I take that one?
Yeah, Richard.
You're right. So if we think of the trade portal, should we say, somebody buying products online, looks very much like a retail process in theory. Big difference, I suppose, with B2B is have they got account, so have they got credit terms, or are they pro forma, so pay in the moment? So if they're pro forma, there's less after sales questions. They've paid for it and they probably get an alert to say it's on its way. But the B2B side of life, so as you bulk ordering, it gets really complicated. So stock profiling, what's in stock, what's out of stock, when's it due in? It's a very different process than retail, that is. And then payment history and invoice history. So what's their age debt look like? And you're chasing people to pay their invoices, haven't got a copy of the invoice, well, go on the trade portal, it's all sat there and you can pay the invoice online. So we're seeing a lot of that. Then there's other elements which are the customers are trying to automate more. We've got a few that sell consignment stock, so call-offs, how many's left, and multiple distribution points. So you've got a head office that orders it, but it's sat somewhere else. And then the two big ones at the moment we're seeing with B2B coming alive, as returns in B2B can be very complicated, but how can you start to automate those online? And the other one then is the old-fashioned negotiation on price. So instead of having a published price list, customers will still call up and try and do a deal. So how can you manage quotes and negotiations through a portal? So that's the biggest areas where we're seeing, let's say, manual side or human intervention side trying to be automated. So therefore it becomes more 24/7. And if you put all those into a online portal, should we say, the self-help files then become really important. And again, the questions a business-to-business person would ask, as opposed to a retail profile person would ask, be very different. And so you need to manage that data as well if you're trying to automate things.
Colin, I feel like that fits in with what we've previously spoken about creating a common language within the product data to help those kind of perhaps now automated systems go a lot smoother. Do you think that's right?
Well, yeah, definitely. Well, I think sort of going back to the question as well is that I believe not only our industry has kind of sort of been left in the dark on a lot of these sort of automation things, but it's kind of quite wide scaled. And I'm a real sort of advocate for automation, because where I talk about value generation is what a lot of people think is that I'm talking about pound note value, but what I'm actually talking about is a time value. And most of the time I only trade in time, because ultimately that is the most finite resource that we have. And being open to automation just saves so much time on the boring sort of mundane things that are repetitive every single day, and it allows me to be able to focus on the bigger issues and the things that I really need to sort of invest that sort of cognitive ability into. And I believe that sort of change in the industry really not only needs to come from that sort of C-level in the organization, but equally within the teams that are kind of sort of on that premise of, oh, well, we've always done it that way, so why do we need to change? And going back to sort of the environmental issue and climate change and so forth, is that that is coming. And the problem is that we're at a juncture globally now that we can't just put it to the back of the pile anymore. We needed to deal with this like years ago. So it's something that all organizations are going to need to act very, very quickly on. And they're also going to need to ensure that it's correct and right. And typically when you're cleaning data is that you need as much time as possible to ensure that it's correct. You can't do something fast to make it correct. It doesn't really work. So yeah, I think being open to change, not only within the organization, but equally down to an individual level as well, is that these things are coming. And I would prefer to be able to help people through that change rather than them sat there stressing over it because they're concerned of, oh, well, it's different. I'm not used to this, or, oh, this big automation robot's going to come in and that's my job gone. Because ultimately, from all of the things that I've leveraged through automation, it doesn't mean that I sit around all day with my feet up on the desk. It actually means that I can invest more time into dealing with the bigger, meatier problems that we've got within the system, and equally ensure that a lot of things are running smoothly, or being able to propose more optimization solutions to be able to get things moving faster. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Colin. Having the time to concentrate on the bigger picture rather than sort of doing all the small, and there will always be data cleansing. Somebody will always say that is incorrect, it's now this. So you can do that every day, but trying to get it automated. We're really keen to use the supplier onboarding via PIM and just validate it purely, you know, where are the stingers, you know, which are the products that we sell an awful lot of that they're saying changing, just concentrate on those and then review after. So it's like the fourth bridge, it's always going to be ongoing. And we do lots of things for our customers via EDI links to see the stock pricing and sort of, you know, lead times and things like that. But then it's sort of, they have to request it. We can send it to them, but they then have to pick it up somehow. So to have a system that is fully integrated to our customers for their own sort of back end would be amazing, so that we update their data without them even knowing. But I think we are a long way off that, but that would be the dream.
Again, very much following on from that, in terms of looking at key technologies within kind of either your company or your client's company in terms of driving B2B growth, what do you think is key for you guys?
For ourselves, we are going to be concentrating on a white label website for our distributors and resellers, where we offer a copy of our own website, just with the front end bespoke to themselves, with all of their own customer services data in there. We historically have always been a catalogue company, but we know that the way forward, we've done a couple of white label sites on our current website, but when we move to the new one, again, it's going to be all new data and all different, and they're going to need so much education on how they do it and how they put their own products, because some of our customers sell additional brands, so having them as savvy as us, because we realize that the generation that our industry is in is getting older, and the young apprentices are coming in and they just, you know, they don't do paper, they don't do catalogues, they're all tablets. So we have to move fast to capture them, and because they'll just go elsewhere, they'll just go to our competitors. So yeah.
Richard, what are you seeing?
Similar with the trade portal, to be fair. So it's, how do you get your customers using your data better, whether they share it, like Lynn's example, saying that the white labeled multiple versions, or you're passing the data through from a PIM directly to their website, so then they can mix the brands, say if they're selling more than just your stuff. But the importance of moving customer-specific data through into a trade portal now is getting more and more important. So what's my specific price? What's my specific terms? So therefore, integration is really big. And we're looking at doing so many more integrations now than ever. Almost every customer review has got integration in the agenda, and whether it's the new marketplaces for wholesale. So Amazon market's obviously huge, but there's more and more marketplaces appearing for wholesale distributors right the way around the world. So there's hundreds of them now, in fact. So multiple websites, multiple points of integration from one data source is big. This moves all our customers into the cloud, but I don't think that's new technology yet. But that's where we're moving more and more into cloud services, and then business intelligence reporting tools wrapped around it all. I think the one challenge I'm seeing more often that customers are having, and the head scratching of how they're going to solve the problem, is a post-Brexit issue of distributing around on the continent. So are they looking at marketplaces to move into those territories quicker, or are they looking at third-party logistics, so parking their products onto the continent and then they're distributed from there? So there's a lot happening. It's very busy. Everybody, I think, is in the same sort of situation. So what are we going to do next, and how are we going to grow? And integration and automation is a huge part of the first step, should we say.
Fab. Colin, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I guess to kind of sort of echo the common sort of thread from Lynn and Richard, is that having an intuitive, scalable PIM system has been invaluable to us, of the ensuring that we've got a middleman in place that's able to kind of send the ERP relevant data down to the ERP, so then it's good to go, and having all of the e-commerce related data in a space good to go for the websites has been amazing. Obviously moving forward, we've got some pretty cool things in the sort of pipeline that we're looking to do, mostly sort of internally, but the overall trend has been to ensure that there's a happy flow of data from our suppliers all the way through the organization to the end consumer. I think the other sort of big thing as well, and not so much a technology, but I do value it very highly, is kind of the human technology, is that selling things online, compared to retail, selling stuff online is really hard. Is that from a consumer's perspective, all you've got is a chunk of text and a picture. From a retail perspective, you're able to feel and touch that product and experience it. And having a team of talented sort of content writers is equally valuable, because they're able to tell the story of that product and be able to kind of, maybe I'll make it more into a sort of fairy tale, but be able to kind of sort of build that story, that narrative of that product, so it actually inspires that person to feel confident in the purchase that they're buying, that it's actually going to serve the purpose that they actually need it to do. And being able to articulate that through a web browser is really challenging to do really, really well. And I know we've sort of said about Amazon, but it doesn't really do it right. A lot of the time there's been a number of products where you can go online and you won't really sort of understand what's going on here. The content isn't really full, and being able to do that really right is really, really hard to do. And that's where the human aspect comes into it. We talk about the automation sort of alleviating some of the boring, mundane stuff, but you still need that human driver in there to be able to sort of tell that story. So, yeah.
Looking ahead then into the next 5 years, looking into our magic glass ball, what will the B2B industry look like in the future, and how can companies kind of plan ahead for this?
Personally, I believe that simple data analytics is going to be paramount, and I emphasize the simple part because sometimes you can get lost in the source of data analytics. You want to cut, splice everything and build these huge sort of data models of all of this collected data and these fancy dashboards that don't actually really tell you anything. It's a load of pretty pictures. But being able to sort of pick out the key elements of data quickly and efficiently, like I sort of mentioned before, is being able to identify your slow movers in your warehouse and the stagnating stock quickly is going to be absolutely key to ensure that you're generating as much possible value as you possibly can. And equally is that I think from a data analysis perspective is that a lot of people in general are starting to be a bit more comfortable with analysing their own data, their own personal data, like energy consumption, for example, is a hot topic in the UK. So being able to sort of understand what your usage is, I think people are going to be a lot more comfortable with analysing and cutting and splicing data, and that sort of demand is going to grow. And equally from an environmental perspective is that potentially consumers or businesses looking to be as eco-friendly as they possibly can, being able to understand and analyze from their typical basket, okay, well, what's the most eco-friendly and what isn't, and then looking at alternatives to cut out those not so eco-friendly products or replace them with more eco-friendly products is going to be a big thing.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that. I think I'm not going into too much. It all just comes down to data quality. I think the amount of information that channels or websites or Google, Amazon need now, you need so much information at a product level and multiple facets of that product for them to index better. So whether it's just the green initiatives or whatnot, to be those are greenwashing whatnot at the moment, or we've got all the factual information, or if it's something as simple as point of origin, you know, you're going to need more and more data at a product level. But to support that, as we've said previously, yeah, there is that human touch, and you think of the ways in which TV shopping sell products. There's a lot of talk, there's a lot of touch. There's two people engaged in how the product looks and feels and how they use it. And there are some very successful retail websites that position videos very well. So I think we're going to see better quality of data, so you index better and get in front of your customers. And then when you've managed to capture their attention and get them to your website, they've got to have great images, great videos, great descriptions, so they're able to make a very quick decision and convert. So I'm seeing marketing teams grow, and this is where the automation comes in. So the shape of teams are changing because the skill set required to make these high quality product demonstrations type videos is tough, and it can be very expensive. So businesses are focusing on what they can save in other parts of the business to invest in that, because I think it's going to be, you know, the most important thing in the next 5 years.
Yeah, we have got quite a challenge. Again, like I say, our normal customers are getting older, so the new people are coming in, and internally as well. So, you know, we've got quite a young sales team. I think I've mentioned it before earlier, trying to get them up to speed and trying to step outside. If we do go B2C, you know, that's the unknown for our internal sales. They've never had to deal with the end user. So, you know, we have to sort of almost preempt what they want. We have to understand the customer's needs for that one-off sale, may not even be repeated. So the whole relationship and building a rapport with the customers is going to be so different. But you know, we've got the tools to help us to get there. It's just, yeah, exciting times. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Fab. So I guess just to kind of close us today, if you could deliver one lesson that you've learned about the importance of product data, what would be your biggest takeaway?
Shall I go first?
Go on.
Clean it, clean it, clean it. And that's it, yeah. Just make sure it's true.
Yeah, I was going to say quality of data and quality of reporting. It always comes back to this, because if you go into a planning meeting with an average or rubbish or out-of-date report, nothing's going to come out of that meeting. Whereas if you've got better visibility, you can make informed decisions in the moment and you can plan better, and then scaling up is easier. Still very difficult and challenging, and not devaluing that. It's just that accurate data, clean data for good reporting and good analysis is the only way to scale up, I think.
Yeah.
Without pulling your hair out.
Yeah, well, yeah, equally, if you know how to do it right first time, do it right, because otherwise it's really going to haunt you. But if by chance you don't know if it's 100% going to be right, take that failure as a learning opportunity and learn and build from that. Don't beat yourself up, because it's, well, as us three have kind of sort of said, is that there will always be data problems. This is one of the reasons why I love data, master data, so much, is that there will always be a demand for people like us. And the other thing in terms of learning as well is always be learning. The first person that needs to invest in your own personal development is you. Now, although there will be undoubtedly people around you that will help you to learn and understand and build on the skills that you want to go into, you need to take that initiative, and you just need to invest the time into learning and understanding it. And I guess lastly as well is that absolute perfection is impossible. I am quite a big perfectionist, and it took me a long time to realize this, is that I would always be pushing for 100%, top of the pile, be number one. And then I realized that when you're number one, there's only one way to go from there. So don't always aim for absolute perfection. Get as close as you can, but realize that you can never be absolute. So, yeah.
Wow, that was some fantastic advice to close on there. So thank you to Colin, Richard and Lynn for joining us today and sharing their expertise on this fascinating and also very important subject around product data and B2B growth. If something has struck a chord with you today and you want to find out a bit more about this topic, please reach out to the contacts you can see in front of you now. We were more than happy to give you a bit more information and show you how we can potentially help on the subject. To the panelists today, thank you again for joining us. For you guys at home, we hope to catch you soon. Thanks so much.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Great to see you.
Thank you very much.